Welcome. It's been 4 years since my last weapon tier list. Let's be clear, we are currently on DayZ 1.25. If there is a gun missing from here, it's because it's not in the game yet. You're from the future. The selection has grown quite a bit since we last did one of these tier lists. A lot of the weapon balance has changed, weapon damage, weapon availability. Let's make sure we're clear on what we're ranking here. We've got S, A, B, C, D, no E tier this time, and F tier. We're ranking these guns on not only how are they just to use, but also we're talking about the economy, we're talking about the availability and progression. A lot of people don't like that I rank these weapons based on what you might find before or after them, but it's important. What's the point of a gun that's good, but by the time you find it, you've got something better? Is that a good gun? And that's going to factor in. That should factor in. The same thing as a gun that's not necessarily good, but it allows you to transition up to a better gun smoothly because you've already got the ammo type, you've already got the attachments, and you've got to be okay with that. And if you're not, sorry, Snowflake. DayZ's a harsh game, alright? It's not going to baby you around. Grow up. The Amphibia, known as the Mark II, this is seen, despite it running the weakest ammo type, as one of the most essential tools to shoot zombies. Like, you find this thing when you're fresh spawned, and you're probably still carrying it when you're end game. And for that reason, I think it kind of owns a spot in B tier. The Makarov, the IJ. Once again, ammo plentiful, but it's not as good. You know, it can take the pistol suppressor, which is great. And then as far as like using this thing unsuppressed, I mean, you may as well just be signing your death wish. So for that reason, you know what? I think this thing is F tier. I think that thing sucks. It pisses me off that I shoot someone in the head and they don't die. It's 380 auto. Look at the size of the bullet compared to a 9mm or a 357. It's not that different. The only difference is the powder behind it. So tell me, why does this bullet feel like it does 1/10 the damage of this? It's a bullet. If it went into your eye, it fucking hurt. It's my opinion, the pistol calibers need a big buff. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be damage, but I think it should be shock. If I shoot someone in the head with this thing, I expect them to go uncon. That could be the power of the pistol calibers against players. You want to tie someone up, you want to take them hostage, you shoot them with a pistol caliber. If you want to kill them, you shoot them with a rifle. The P1 feels quite rare. Since being reintroduced, I don't think I've actually ran this. I've picked up bits of it. I've picked up either the gun or the mags, but I've never had both at the same time. And so honestly, I think it might be F tier, just because it is essentially the same as the CR75, but with a smaller magazine size, and it seems rarer despite being in the same tiers. You find other guns first, and even then, why would you take it over any of the other pistols that we're about to talk about? Like the CR75, which I think is a solid sidearm. That's C tier material. Takes 9mm, which allows you to upgrade to the Glock, probably as good. And the MP5, honestly, probably C tier. It allows you to carry a NATO optic for transitioning to other weapons later. That's a benefit, but you gotta put it in context. Are you gonna take this over some of the other guns we have down here? You can have this and one of the other guns down here, and you're often gonna find something better than this before you find this. I would also wish that the devs would revisit attachments overall for the whole game, because this thing has a foregrip. They don't mean anything. If you take the foregrip off, your guy still holds nothing in the air. The 1911, a Colt, a classic, a reliable sidearm. The benefit of 45 ACP over 9mm. This, when you shoot a zombie, makes them stumble backwards. It stuns them. When you shoot a zombie with any of these other calibers, they just go and keep running at you. You shoot a zombie with a 45 and they stumble back. But every time I have a 45 caliber weapon, I feel like I'm repairing that thing constantly. So for that reason, I'm kind of keeping it in C tier. It's reliable, it's good, but his hotter older brother, it's the exact same gun. It just looks cooler. You can't fault that. The FNX. This is the equivalent of the Glock. It's the higher tier, larger capacity magazines. I mean, this just has swag, but again, the 45, I feel like they ruined too quick. The UMP 45. What have they done to you? This gun in the old days was my favorite gun, and it was so rare. I never found these things back in the day, but every time I did, it was on site. I want the reflex scope. I want a pistol suppressor. This thing knocked people uncon like crazy, and that's why I think the role of the pistol calibers should be to knock players uncon. These days, something with the MP5, you gotta laser people. You gotta empty your mag on them and just pray. They got 6 bleeds and they're still running around. This thing used to be one of my favorite guns in the game, and honestly, as it stands right now, by the time you're finding UMPs, there's just so many better guns you can have. Again, if we were reviewing attachments, this is a folding stock, please. Same thing with the AKS, same thing with the AS Val as well, and the Bison, and the Vicky, and the Sega. Make the attachments do something. Worse for shooting, better for infantry management. Make infantry management more fun. The Derringer. Little DayZ trivia for you guys. This gun used to be 45 ACP. Derringer 22. Derringer 45. Derringer 357. Whoa! TF2 gun. Now it's 357, which is technically a buff, but 357 is quite rare. And the Derringer tends to spawn in cities. You know what also spawns in cities? The Deagle. And the Swagnum. We have to be honest with ourselves. The Derringer sits in your inventory because you think it's funny, and then you find a real gun and you need to drop it because you need space. This is a gun you use if you've just picked it up and it has one bullet in it because it spawned like that, and then you shoot it and you go, ah, fuck. That's its use. I'm sorry, Derringer. You're funny, but no one's using you past the first 20 minutes of their life. But then we get these bad boys. Oh, man. The Deagle. Strong. When you hear a suppressed Deagle shoot in the city, you go, ooh. Fuck. Which is crazy because I don't think 357 actually does that much damage. I could be wrong. Let's find out. Does 65 damage, 100 blood, 90 shock. Uncon refill modifier 2.75. 6. This is the lowest we've seen. What does that mean? Winchester shares it. Wait a minute. Does 357 uncon for longer? We're learning things today. They are somewhere between the pistol caliber damage and your lower end rifle damage. They uncon for a long time. They stumble zombies. But look, I have bias. This is a good gun. And honestly, it's going in B tier. Has the knockback factor of the 45, does a lot of damage. But also, it's actually really good to pull against players. But I mean, come on. How can you not? The only revolver in the game, in the first weapon tier list I did, 2019, I placed it S tier. It wasn't even in the game when I did that video. It is just my all-time favorite gun. So that's why I must put the Sawn-Off, the bastard child, this gremlin, this deformed creature in F tier. Why would you ever do this? If you're that pressed for inventory space, take the Derringer. It does look kind of funny though. You're allowed to do it if you know you're being funny. The Longhorn is one of the funniest weapons in the game. As far as a sidearm, a sniper's sidearm is really funny. Now, granted, it's dog shit compared to literally everything else on this list pretty much, except maybe here. But it's got some funny factor. It's going in B tier. BK, the IZH 18. It's ammunition type, while really strong and allows you to transition pretty well to some of these other rifles we have over here. You don't find it when you find this gun, really. It's a gun, much like the Derringer, much like the P1, you pick up because you found it, you get a few shots out of it, and then you drop it. It do be kind of hitting like a truck, though. It's going to go in D tier. It's Sawn-Off variant, though. You're saving inventory space, but why? What? Who for? The person who kills you? Trash. Shotgun time. The IZH 12, the single shot version of this thing, the double barrel. This is the single barrel shotgun. It's the great equalizer. They are so strong. They might be a tad too strong, or maybe just a tad too common. I think I'm going to say they're too common. Not in the sense that like they're too easy to get going. If you just make the ammo rarer, I don't think that solves the problem. It just makes it more frustrating as a shotgun user. I think in lower tiers, you just find a shotgun too quick, and you're always going to take one of these over this, over this, over this, over this. So maybe they're just a little too common, and maybe that's just because they've introduced the single shot and they reduced the numbers a little bit of this guy and this guy, but there's still like more in the ecosystem than there used to be. I could be wrong, but this guy, you hold him until you find a double shot or the 133. His Sawn-Off variant, I'll grant it, it's better than anything else in F tier, but it's still F tier. Why would you want the Sawn-Off variant of that when you could have the Sawn-Off variant of this guy? So first of all, it's the double barrel. He's just better than this. The double barrel is iconic. It has the value of that you can miss a shot, you've got a chance to quickly get the follow-up, whereas with this guy, you're ducking and weaving. And his Sawn-Off variant, I mean, it's iconic. It has swag value. Much like these, it's not as good as this, but it rests safely tucked under the single barrel variant. Like, if I kill you and you've got a Sawn-Off BK rifle, I'm saying you deserved it. If I kill you and I see you had the Sawn-Off shotgun, in any other situation, I guarantee we're friends. And then we get to the 133 shotgun. Again, we're talking about attachment rebalance. I wish they'd bring the pistol grip variant back. That's shorter, has control, has less recoil, less accurate, but funny. But while we've got this version, I think it might be worse than the double barrel. You do have the higher capacity, but loading it up, right? Take a shot, you got to duck and cover. Oh, you just feel like you feel stupid every time you're pressing R because they're not dead yet. Whereas this guy, you go bang, bang. You don't have time to think about it. But when you miss and you go, you feel like the worst piece of shit ever. That's C tier, baby. We'll get to you in a minute. The Scorpion. 380 auto, as we've described, not great, but 20 round mags, very common. It's a powerful gun on the coast. Now, it's not fun when your mag's empty and you didn't kill a guy because you're shooting 380 auto, but it's pretty good. I think it's D tier. So one thing they did to nerf this gun was it used to take the AK suppressor. Now it takes the pistol suppressor, which granted is probably most likely far more accurate. But that means this gun has lost some value. A lot of the time you'd find it, you'd have a suppressor that you could upgrade into a higher tier. Now it's a pistol suppressor, and oftentimes when you find this gun, you're often just dragging the suppressor off it onto a gun you actually want and carrying on because you've already got a shotgun. Again, maybe this is a shotgun problem, not the Scorpion's problem, because the Scorpion's pretty fun. The Bison is kind of a meme gun. I'm going to put it in D tier. It is funny that the mags are 64 capacity on this thing. Reloading it takes forever. I don't know what tier you guys find this in. I'm always finding it at like Northwest Airfield. There are so many better guns you can find before this thing. It's good if you're going to be fighting a lot of wolves, maybe. It's shit. The Sega, though. It's shit. Make this folding. Make buttstocks and stuff important. This is a gun that every time I find it, or I find one of its mags, I don't carry it because in my head, I'm like, it's too late. But this thing eats. You should fear it. Not only is it good for base rating, but having a full auto shotgun in almost any scenario, especially with the modern game, I'm going to give some criticism here. It's shit. Distance fighting has changed a lot. Scopes, I think, are worse today than they were in the old game. The fog is thicker and more oppressive, which seems to be changing with the previews of Sakal. But the fog is so much more oppressive that visibility at a distance is worse, meaning that the game is more often fought medium to close range than it was long range in the past, which means shotguns are stronger again. By the time you're finding it, you've often transitioned off of shotguns and maybe dropped the ammo for it. But if you're dedicated, that's a good gun. I'm going to skip the Vicky for a minute. Talk about the Sporter. The Sporter's always been a bit of a meme gun. This thing feels so inaccurate. If you have it 0 to 100 and you click on something's head that's like 50 meters away, you miss. The way this thing zeros feels goofy as hell. Maybe that's just how 22 is. With the hunting scope, it feels like shit. That said, it's got some meme value. Everyone talks about, oh, with 22, the first shot doesn't attract zombies. I don't know if that's true. I think maybe like it's less likely to attract zombies. I think it's a lot like these other weapons down here with like the Derringer. You take it if you have to, but otherwise I think it's actually just like a joke weapon. It's not good at all. The repeater carbine has the same swag as some of these other guns here. It has cowboy value. 357 is a strong round. It's a C2 weapon. It's good. If you choose to run it, I respect you. I think it should be more common in tier 2. You know, stay competitive against your Mosins, the early Mosins. You should stay competitive against the shotguns, against the SMGs. Let's start with the 9x39s. Now, this is an interesting caliber because in the past, I have rated these, and I think at the time it was only the VSS. So we've had 2 new additions since I last rated these guys. At that time, this thing only spawned on helicopter crash sites. For a while, they were only spawning in gas zones, I think. Now they spawn in a lot more places. The AS Val, a variant brought in to use the Western scopes that also came with a 20 round mag variant. 10 rounds is nothing. 20 rounds is kind of game changing. Then it became good. Armor piercing rounds. Okay, now we're talking. Okay, this thing eats now. And just recently they brought in this thing. The little brother with a 30 round mag, but no suppressor, foregrip attached, horses in the back. You find this thing in similar tiers that you're finding like the AUG, the 101, okay, the FAMAS, the M16. This thing is a beast. 30 rounds full auto and easy transition up to these versions if you choose. Game changer. For that reason, I think the Vicky, I think it might be A tier. I think it might be better. Just in the sense that you're going to find that earlier, you're going to use it for longer, and it's going to make those impacts. Folding bot stock, these are a choice. The choice has already been made up here. All right, come on. Welcome, little brother. Welcome. Here we have the SSG with an inbuilt PU that's slightly worse than the real PU scope. You're not getting the benefit of transitioning the scope off to a different gun, but it does sound cool. But I'm sorry. This thing's D tier. It's shit. The SKS, on the other hand, oh baby, takes the PU scope, one of the best optics in the game. The ammo is plentiful. It remains competitive into the late game. The SKS is A tier. Take your seat, king. The AKS 74U, the shrunk boy, essentially SMG variant. Once again, it's buttstock. Should be foldable. Its purpose is to carry mags, but it is common. I think it goes in C tier. It fills a similar role to the MP5. This thing does it in AK magazines. And then we have the 74 itself, is one of the best guns in the game. Controllable, common ammo, 45 round mag availability, full PSO suite of optics. You should never put the cash tam on any weapon. I want to make that clear. But otherwise, the 74, one of the best guns of all time. And then we have its big brother, the AKM. It shoots the same ammo as the SKS. Its problem right now is that it's rare because it's only found in gas zones. But I'm not going to hold that against it. CR527, CZ527 takes the hunting scope, shoots SKS AKM rounds. I think it's a fun bolt action. I tend to have a problem with this. I don't know if this bug is still a thing, but for a long time I had an issue where I would crank the bolt, I'd click, and it would click, 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 click like it hadn't been cranked. Don't know what that's about. It's a bolt action you take before you find an SKS, before you find a better bolt action. But it's still good. C tier. Speaking of bolt actions you take until you find a better gun that can use the ammo or scopes, the Scout, the Pioneer. I was keen for you to come to the game for a long time. It shoots M4 bullets, but sometimes that just doesn't hit enough. Again, I feel like this game kind of has a problem where you put a strong bullet into someone in dead center mass or in the head, and they kind of just flinch sometimes, and they go uncon for 2 seconds. But otherwise, it's a good gun. The FAMAS. The Lamas, as some people might know it. It's shit. They're doing you dirty. You have such a high fire rate. Close quarters, hip firing this bad boy. It is a deletion button in every other scenario. It's shit. You aim down scopes on this thing without the sawn-off variant, and it's shit. The FAMAS, you're a hose up close, but otherwise, someone's dropping you for the first different 5.56 weapon they find. The AK-101, the 5.56 variant of the AK. I kind of feel like, while it's good, and it is good, if you have the option between a 74 and a 101, you're taking the 74. Even though 5.56, hold on, 115, huh, fuck me dead. Is 5.45 just straight up better? I would have thought 5.56 was better. 5.45 is better? For that reason, you're in C tier, bud. People might choose to run you, and you're not bad, but if you have an option to take a 74, you're taking the 74. The M16. M16's taken an interesting role in the game as a mid-tier 5.56 rifle, only having single shot and burst fire capabilities, takes no optics whatsoever, and it's good. I mean, single fire's good. I feel like it kind of takes its place in C tier, along with the 101. Kind of feel like these are equivalent, even though this has full auto and has scope capabilities. You're often finding this in the same situations you'd find 74s, which you'd rather take anyway. But if you do choose to take 5.56, this is also a good option. And then we're getting to the creme de la creme. Let's talk about the AUG short. This is based on the AUG A1, I believe. Yep, this is based on the AUG A3. The point of the universal aspect of the AUG is that it is interchangeable parts. I could be wrong. Gun nerds in the comments, let me know. I'm pretty sure the longer barrel of the AUG A3 here could still be used in the AUG A1, and the same thing with different foregrips, if that were an option. The AUG short only takes the AUG mag, whereas the AUG A3 takes all compatible 5.56 magazines, or like Stanags style. It makes it tough to run in the same sense that the FAMAS is, because this only uses FAMAS mags, or the 101 only uses 101 mags. This using only AUG mags means you have to find so much more specific loot that can't spawn everywhere, because if these were too common, then that's all people would find. They just complain about it. You're finding way more normal, like universal 5.56 mags than you are AUG mags, which makes this tough to run. For that reason, the AUG short going in D tier. On the other hand, these two bad boys cook. This is one of my favorite guns in the game. You put a suppressor on that bad boy with an ACOG, you throw in like a 40 round C mag, this thing cooks. I mean, look, let's just put them where they belong. You know where they belong. And people might be pissed that I'm not putting the AKM up there or the 74 up there. But you know it. I know it. If you have a choice to run either of these, and you're not running some of these ones down here, you're taking it. If you want an automatic endgame rifle, these are your two bad boys. These are the ones you're gunning with. And the M4, it's iconic. With all its different attachments, which again, I wish it did more. The choice of buttstocks and stuff, especially in the old engine when it mattered about like, you know, what buttstock you used, if you were going for close quarters, whether you were going for marksmanship, when it had the bipod capability. We haven't even talked about bayonets. Like, we've got bayonets on the SKS, we've got bayonets on the AKs, we've got bayonets on the M4. I don't know if the 16 can take the M4 bayonet. I don't know if the AUG can take the M4 bayonet. Ask someone else. I'll glance it. Nope, the 16 can. 101 can take the AK bayonet. Well, there you go. While we're talking about the attachments, please rename the suppressors to 5.56 suppressor, because only 5.56 weapons use that suppressor. As for the other suppressor, you could call that Suppressor East like it used to be, or AK suppressor, as it is in the files. It makes way more sense than standardized and normalized. Those are synonyms, meaning that it is very confusing for anyone to learn the difference between normalized and standardized suppressor. It'd be wonderful. Thank you. The home stretch. Gun pedants in my comments in previous years have been mad when I have talked about how the Mosin and the Blaze, when DayZ Alpha first came out, used the same ammunition, 7.62x5.1. And then they would get in my comments saying, well, the 5.1 is 308. Well, guess what, idiot? Although originating from an identical preceding series of experimental cartridges, the 1952 308 Winchester and the military 1954 7.62x5.1 NATO chain rings have evolved separately and are not identical. Are similar enough that they can be loaded into and chained into rifles for other rounds, but the 308 Winchester cartridges are typically loaded to higher pressures. So next time anyone in the comments, on the little gun pedants, you're so stupid. What are you even talking about? Well, guess what, idiot? They just shaped the same. The Mosin Nagant, an iconic weapon, one of my favorite all-time weapons in DayZ. I wish there was a higher power scope you could get for this, and this has been a discussion a lot recently. I think it is high time that the Mosin got its scope mount. The Mosin deserves to use other scopes other than the PU, but it is still iconic even with the PU. It is one of the best rifles in the game. You find it mid-tier and it's still good end game. You cannot go wrong with the Mosin. It is an S-tier rifle in my opinion. Now, it's sawn off little brother. I have one fun story about this guy. In 2019, I was playing with a group called Alpine Core. Purely survival, there were no traders on the server, but us as players out of our player-made base at Zub Castle ran a trade base, and we had a sawn-off Mosin because we thought it was funny, and we kept giving it away as a bonus to anyone that came and shopped with us. We could not get rid of this thing. We gave it away like 4 different times, and within an hour each time it was back at the base, either because the person that was using it died within view of the castle, or because they walked away, got killed, and the person that killed them came to give it to us because they didn't want it. Oh man, it's still trash though. The Blaze 95. One of my all-time favorite weapons, and it has the benefit that the double barrel shotgun here has follow-up shot potential. As my friend Harley would say, you can put it on economy mode, which is the single shot, or you can put it on power mode, the double shot. For that reason, it is a beast and belongs alongside its brother, the Mosin. The Winchester takes the hunting scope, which is a higher powered scope. I think it's an equivalent. It's a personal taste. Do you like the hunting scope? Do you like the PU scope? I feel like the sway is probably worse with the Winchester, but you have a higher range capability. And so that's your choice. And then whether or not you want 5 rounds, but with the delay, or if you want a follow-up shot or the power mode, then you Blaze, that's your choice. The sawn-off Blaze, though, the SV98, the newest weapon to DayZ, and people are discussing, what is its point? The devs were talking about an exotic rifle coming this year, and then they announced the SV98. I don't really see what's exotic about it. It's essentially like an external magazine-fed Mosin. Its best scope is the ACOG 6x, which I don't like as an optic. My good friend Lachlan, Simply Saber, check out his channel, predicted that they might add the Arctic Warfare, the AWM, L96, whatever you want to call it, as the exotic rifle. Nuts.
Oh, if you got that third one, you're a crackhead.
Maybe this steps on the toes of the Savannah, but I kind of feel like this would have been a more interesting weapon. That's my opinion. Introduce a new scope. Maybe you could introduce the integrally suppressed version that the SAS use. But instead we kind of end up with this thing, which is like equal to, but maybe worse than the Mosin, because you have to find more mags for it. But it's not bad. Or is it? I don't know. Because the SVD is just better. The SVD is just better. And you have to find mags for this thing. And it uses the ACOG. It's okay. I don't think it's C tier. I think it's B tier, but it's a reluctant B tier. It's a little shameful B tier. Like, you could be better. You could have a bipod, maybe a better Picatinny scope found in gas zones or something. And then it can fulfill the slot I was talking about with the Mosin used to have in the early alpha when it had a bipod, when it had the long range scope, that this becomes a bolt action long range sniper rifle. But as of right now, it's a little bit disappointing. The Savannah is a funny weapon because it is pretty much just the Winchester, but it takes a magazine. It looks cool, but it takes a magazine. Honestly, it's fine. It's good. These two are so similar in the sense that like their internal magazine older brothers are just, they outshine them. And for that reason, they get knocked down. Okay, we're in the big 3. The FAL, 20 round mags, full auto. NATO optics. It's one of the best weapons in the game. It is iconic. When they brought it back and it had full auto, that was insane. But I don't feel like it can rest in S tier simply because I don't want it to. It's really good. It's one of the best. We're putting it next to the AKM. Putting this to 74, the SKS, and the Vicky. Like, these are amazing guns. It is a gun that you can always take reliably and like no one's going to judge you. And then you got the DMR and the SVD, the kings of semi-automatic marksmanship. You're hitting shots with these guys, people are dying. Math guy's going to come in and tell you all sorts of stats. Wobo's going to come in here and tell you this guy's technically stronger, but he also admits the SVD can take the suppressor east. And also, I feel like the PSO is a better marksman scope than the ACOGs. Maybe the ACOG 4X, the original ACOG, is invited. The 6x though is not invited. But this guy also, like, he's like a truck. They both deserve their spot in S tier. And then for a little bit of dessert, guys, I brought in the launchers. Here we have the flare gun and the M79 grenade launcher. The flare gun, wish you killed. I wish when I shot someone in the face, they would collapse and ragdoll like they did in Alpha. It was really funny. But instead, you just shoot flares. No one's carrying you except for a meme and my friend Lachlan. So, you're F tier. Sorry. Be better next time. The M79 grenade launcher. I mean, it's so funny that there's a grenade launcher in DayZ. A lot of the time, you find one part of the situation. It's kind of similar to the Sega. You find one part of it, whether it's the rounds for it, and you don't have one or the other, so you don't pick it up, and then you regret it later. But if you get it running, you have a lot of fun. And ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it. Let me glance this and see if I can move anything around. I think I want to nominate the 101 and M16 to move up a tier. I think I want to drop the MP5 down a tier. I think your ass. I think you take the spot here, even though you have the swag, you have the juice. I think you're moving down a tier because you're actually kind of crap. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the DayZ weapon tier list. It's perfect. If you disagree with it, you're wrong. I don't care. If you disagree with the video, make your own weapon tier list and tag me on Twitter in it, and then we feed back and forth off of each other like little parasite. I appreciate you for sitting through this rambling nonsense. Oh shit, I forgot about the crossbow. It's C tier.